You know, I got to be honest with you here, boss. You don't want to give me that gun. 'Cause I'd probably shoot you with it.
Come on, man.
Now, obviously, the United States represents an important market for Colombian businesses, and so this is going to be a win for Colombia. It's also a win for the United States. This represents a potential $1 billion of exports, and it could mean thousands of jobs for workers here in the United States. And so I believe that we can structure a trade agreement that is a win-win for both our countries. And I'm looking forward to working with President Santos to ensure that both countries benefit, and this will help me meet my goal of making sure the United States has doubled exports over the coming years, and that we're as competitive as we can be in a global marketplace in the 21st century.
This is Cesar with your Black Agenda Report morning shot for Wednesday, May 4th, 2011. My, how the Negro president is making life worse for Africans all over the world like only a Negro president can do. Old Dirty Bama has put his worst foot forward to pass the free trade agreement with Colombia. The official logic coming from the White House is that per his State of the Union promise to double exports in the next 5 years, this and other free trade deals must be implemented. Obama apparently has decided to go forward with the deal with the advent of an action plan that, according to thehill.com, quote, requires Colombia to provide better protections for union leaders and labor organizers, including by sentencing those who threaten union workers with jail sentences of up to 5 years. It also directs the Colombian National Police to assign 95 full-time judicial police investigators to help prosecute crimes against workers, unquote. This proposed action plan, reflecting a newfound willingness on the part of the Colombian state to not sanction the cold-blooded murder of workers, faces a glaring contradiction in that a recorded 51 workers were killed last year alone. However, there are several other reasons why Africans all over the world should oppose Old Dirty Bama's latest collaboration in the decimation of African people.
Estamos aquí para protestar en contra del TLC, para decirle a la comunidad colombiana estadounidense que los afrocolombianos no estamos a favor del TLC, estamos totalmente en contra, no aprobamos las medidas del Tratado de Libre Comercio con Colombia.
This is going to be a win for Colombia.
Hay una carta que se le envió al Congreso y a la representante Nancy Pelosi de 168 organizaciones afrocolombianas, organizaciones de base de las regiones donde están los territorios más apetecidos por los intereses económicos, que dicen no al TLC. Los afrocolombianos que visitan Estados Unidos, que tienen ese privilegio, son élites negras de Colombia que tienen intereses particulares o de empresas y que vienen a promover sus intereses particulares. Pero las comunidades de base, las organizaciones de base, que son las directamente afectadas, cuyos territorios y recursos y derechos son violados, dicen radicalmente no.
This is going to be a win for Colombia.
El TLC contiene ciertas normas, ciertas regulaciones que privilegian intereses de la inversión privada extranjera que irían en contra de los derechos territoriales de las comunidades afrocolombianas. Hay ciertas políticas que el gobierno de Uribe se esforzó por sacar adelante para privilegiar ciertas condiciones del TLC que afectan los derechos económicos, culturales y territoriales de las comunidades afrocolombianas. Bajo esas leyes y medidas va a ser muy difícil que 1 millón de desplazados afrocolombianos que han perdido sus territorios colectivos puedan recuperarlos. Actualmente el gobierno no muestra ninguna voluntad política para devolver esos territorios, para garantizar un retorno seguro de las comunidades. Comunidades sin territorio donde trabajar no tienen oportunidad económica. El TLC no le va a dar oportunidad a las comunidades de recuperar sus territorios.
This is going to be a win for Colombia.
Various grassroots organizations have opposed the FTA, some going so far as to say that it will, quote, finish off the black communities. As activist Carlos Rosero of Proceso de Comunidades Negras and Marino Córdoba of Afrodes remind us, the free trade agreement strengthens export-oriented natural resource extraction corporations and undermines rural economies, thus leading to the displacement of millions of poor rural Colombians from their lands and leaving them with no option other than to work for those groups that have violently displaced them from their lands and appropriated their natural resources, or to become involved in the informal or even illegal economic sectors. And as I have personally researched, Obama's free trade agreement will make approximately 8 million small Afro-Colombian farmers the competitive prey to heavily subsidized U.S. agricultural producers. The free trade agreement's investment rules threaten Afro-Colombian communities with displacement and environmental pandemonium because of the ancestral territory's close proximity to natural resources. And the agreement's intellectual property laws will intensify the patent rights of multinational corporations, which will inevitably cause a surge in the cost of health care, which is already unavailable to many Afro-Colombians, and threaten the ownership rights that they have to their own traditional medicines. Therefore, we are witnessing the full neo-colonial conclusion to African-Colombian existence, thanks to the gunshot-smiling, black-skinned emperor. This agreement relating to free trade doesn't even address the continued U.S. collaboration of Plan Colombia, which basically funds more militarism that displaces more Colombians. Oh, I can see it now. Africans displaced from their ancestral territories in Colombia with Obama's approval eventually migrate to the United States in search of employment, where ordinary people will blame them for taking jobs and taking up space, given that they make it all the way here without being slain by paramilitaries that the U.S. trained at the School of Americas or on Colombian soil. The role of the free trade agreement will never be mentioned to the masses of people, much like NAFTA's relationship to migration from Mexico never has. And if history plays out exactly the same, Obama will end up deporting record numbers of Africans, and not just Haitians this time. Now in political prisoner news, Sundiata Acoli released a statement a few weeks ago whose relevance is only matched by its clarity. Why should you support black political prisoners and prisoners of war? Well, maybe you shouldn't. If you're happy with the way the U.S. and the world is going, and if you want to see the United States and the West continue to dominate and oppress the rest of the world, then you shouldn't support black political prisoners or POWs. If you want to see one country or one race or the capitalist system continue to dominate other countries, other races, and the world, then you shouldn't support black PPs and POWs. And if you yourself are about trying to dominate, manipulate, or exploit other peoples and organizations for personal benefit, then you definitely shouldn't support black PPs and POWs, or any other revolutionary PPs or POWs, because we're about ending racism in all its forms and wherever it exists. Plus, we're about ending capitalism, sexism, and all unjust oppressions of people and life in general on Earth and throughout the universe. Now, if you can relate to that, and are about freedom, equality, human rights, and self-determination for all people, creating a non-exploitative, non-oppressive society and economic system, making the world a better place and living in harmony with other people, the environment, and the universe, then you should support black PPs and POWs, because that's what we're about and have been about for generations, centuries, and millenniums. But mostly you should support black PPs and POWs and all revolutionary PPs and POWs, because it's the right thing to do. And lastly, how should you support them? Well, you should support black and all political prisoners and prisoners of war by supporting organizations that support them, and by contacting us individually to ask how you can best support us. Sundiata's comment brings us to the continued attention we are paying to the developments in Mumia Abu-Jamal's case. The latest is that the Third Circuit Court of Appeals has found Mumia's death sentence unconstitutional, confirming that the jury that sentenced him was misled about the process for considering evidence supporting a life sentence. Now, Mumia can either have a new sentencing phase trial or be given an automatic change in penalty from a death sentence to life in prison without parole. The prosecution has the option to appeal the Third Circuit case to the Supreme Court, yet it is improbable that arguments on this issue will be heard again. So, the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office will have to grant Mumia a new sentencing phase trial or release him to general population for a sentence of life in prison without parole. By no means does this new news mean that we can relax or congratulate the system for inadvertently keeping Mumia in a cage instead of accomplishing its true intent, which is to kill our most dedicated revolutionary leaders with impunity while our liberation movement fades out of popular imagination. Staying committed to Sundiata, Mumia, Mando Welanga, the Move 9, Mutulu, Leonard Peltier, Oso Blanco, and all the political prisoners and prisoners of war is staying committed to ourselves. In reality, like Black liberation warrior Safia Bukhari tells us, if you're involved in this kind of work, you could one day be a political prisoner too. So free them all, y'all. And I ain't talking to the courts.
I just met the most marvelous bunch of niggers. the most marvelous bunch. You get him? Shh.